from Daily Entry. Today we're talking about the Flynn effect and the attention economy. So, what is the attention economy and what is the Flynn effect? The attention economy. Nowadays, everyone is dying for your attention. And my attention too. You should see my screen time on TikTok. You don't want to see it. I'm not proud. Speaking of TikTok, how many hours do you spend on TikTok every day? Check. How many hours I spend? I want to tell you that I set an app timer that I've been ignoring for a very long time. That it's set to 1 hour, but let me just tell you, I have spent more than 1 hour systematically every single day for months on TikTok. I could even say I spend probably 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. I remember I checked one of my screen time dashboards and it said that I spend 20 hours a week on TikTok, and I feel like that's like a part-time job. That's like nearly a full-time job. Doom scrolling on TikTok, you know. And we all want to convince ourselves that like scrolling on TikTok is like educational and like social and whatever, right? But it's not, right? And why am I even mentioning TikTok to begin with? I feel like TikTok, the Flynn effect, and the attention economy are so tied together because attention economy. People are earning millions, billions, trillions of dollars, euros, yens, rupees, whatever, from your attention, from you doom scrolling, from you consuming content. And a thing that I think about sometimes when like, you know, I look at my dashboard and I see how much, the amount of time that my content has been watched, you know, by humanity as a whole. And I do the math and I'm like, oh my god, it's like humanity has spent 10 years watching my content. Okay, you know. Which, you know, I mean, that whole conversation opens a whole other path. But to stay on topic, that's just like, I'm just like one creator and not even like a big creator, and that's like an old example, a bit long story, right? But you can think about it that way. If one small creator can like take, you know, their content could be watched for like 3 years, you know, like as humanity as a whole, can you imagine how much time humanity, everyone is actually spending how much time they're spending on consuming content, on watching mindless videos on the internet? And can you imagine if all that time went somewhere else, anywhere else, you know? But of course, hey, I feel like at the same time, hey, you cannot compare an educational video to some TikTok brain rot, because content is different. You know, there's educational content, there is vlogs that could be inspiring, there's also videos that I like to watch myself, or, you know, movies and shows and music, right? Not everything is just brain rot, right? So you would think that us consuming so much content would make us smarter or better, right? And for the longest time, that's how it was, until the 2010s. That's when the Flynn effect comes in. The Flynn effect. Maria, what is the Flynn effect? You've mentioned it already a couple of times. Am I supposed to know it? Well, the Flynn effect. I said something wrong, so I'm fixing it here. The Flynn effect refers to the observed rise over time in standardized intelligence test scores documented by Flynn in a study on intelligence quotient score gains in the standardization samples of successive versions of Stanford Binet and Wechsler intelligence tests. So the Flynn effect, the long-term rise in IQ scores, seems to be stalling or reversing for generation alpha, with evidence suggesting a decline in average scores in some regions, marking a shift from the decades-long trend. While the traditional effect involved IQ gains of about 3 points per decade due to better nutrition education and abstract thinking, newer research points to potential causes for stagnation and reversal in Gen Alpha, including increased screen time, environmental factors, and changes in problem solving, with some studies showing declines even within families. So that's kind of the thing that I was talking about and mentioning. But yeah, I just wanted to fix it because I was referring to it as the Flynn effect, but in actuality it's the reverse Flynn effect. It explains how humans have actually consistently becoming smarter and smarter until the 2010s, when the first time ever humanity started to score lower on IQ scores and started to perform lower cognitively. And we're starting to see that younger generations are actually becoming dumber, aka Gen Alpha and Gen Beta. Hey, my generation is, that smart. Well, I feel like at the same time we can talk about averages. We're not talking about, of course there's smart people in every single generation and all that, but on average we can clearly see that newer generations are having a hard time with their cognitive abilities, math, science, reading, writing, and obviously the pandemic hasn't helped, and obviously having devices that are literally designed to steal away their time and attention and make them into brainless consumers from before they even know who they are, before they even know basic algebra. Of course that's going to do something to their brain. And obviously we all know how our devices are actually infecting our brain chemistry, or brain water, or neural pathways. Even I have spoken sometimes about how, like, watching bajillion videos online about every single horrible thing that's happening in the world is doing something to my brain. You don't say, because even I feel like for me personally, I feel like I'm becoming better at it. This is a topic that I've talked about before, how we're the first generation ever to have access to so much information about everything that's going on, and we can have videos and photos and everything, is everything good and everything horrible as well, 20 years ago, I'm gonna tell you, they didn't have thousands of videos of an active genocide that they could just watch, from different angles, from different perspectives, from every single human being, and that does something to your brain if you're, but it's also important to not be desensitized to it, but it's just so insane, it's so insane. But it's just a topic that it's so important to me, and I always like to mention it, even though it's a bit off topic when we're talking about attention economy and the Flynn effect, right? But at the same time, is it? Because everything's intertwined at the end of the day, and it's normal. We spend so much time staring at screens. We've replaced real social connection and hobbies with screens and content, instead of going out with your friends and talking or pursuing a hobby. You might only scroll because you think it's easier, because you think, what, I'm too tired to practice a hobby, I'm too tired to do anything else, let me just doom scroll one video, and next thing you know, it's been 2-3 hours. I remember, I had periods where I had TikTok deleted, right? And I remember when I deleted TikTok recently, and I remember what I did instead of going to TikTok, I called a friend and I just would hang out with them. I'd be like, okay, now what? Let me just text a friend so I could hang out with them instead of doom scrolling. There was even a quote of, I feel like, Netflix CEO that was talking about how we're not competing with relationships anymore. The only competition we have is with sleep. So how do we get people to sleep less and watch more Netflix? No one watches Netflix anymore. But the same quote applies to everywhere, to every other platform. How do we get people to sleep less? And frankly, I have slept less sometimes because I was doom scrolling, or have watched YouTube videos, but precisely I would say doom scrolling, And how messed up is that, right? How I was willing to sacrifice my sleep, one of the biggest pillars of my health, to consume mindless content that I do not even remember. And how often have I done that? And how many videos have I watched? Probably hundreds of thousands by now. That's insane and unnecessary. And because I feel like the Flynn effect is highly the reason of the Flynn effect is always kind of highly attributed to us spending more time online, but not in that sense, in the doom scrolling way, in the mindless consumer content way. And even I found myself mindlessly scrolling and consuming content for a great portion of my life. And I would think to myself, why do I do this, right? But it feels like, well, if everyone is doing it, it's normalized, and you feel out of it, it's the place to be online, even socially. If you're not on it, then you don't know what's going on. like you don't get the references, you don't get the memes, you don't get the way like little things and marks that make people connect with each other easier and all that, you know. So you want to feel part of it. You want to know what's going on, what's popular, what's trending, what's the new lingo, you know, what is everyone talking about, you know. That's why it's important. It feels like it should be. It's important to doom scroll, right? But is it really? Is it? Do you really have to know every single dumb trend just to make you feel like you belong or fit in or are you know, informed and up to date with the latest trends or whatever? You know? And if it's not that, then is it just a habit? Do you think it's a productive habit? I feel like we can say good things and bad things about TikTok, but then we're talking about legislation and how it's set up and the algorithm and how the For You page is really like gambling. It was actually designed for YouTube. It's like a gambling little thing where you like it, you don't like it, whatever. It's a whole thing. And everything in social media is designed as if it's lottery, from the colors to the design of everything. It's designed to keep you hooked, and it's designed to make you to put you to stay on the platform, because if you stay on the platform, they make more money. It's simple as day. And that's actually one of the reasons why you will see more negative content on these platforms, because negative content keeps you engaged, it keeps you watching, it keeps you fighting, it keeps you arguing, and it keeps making people richer. No, I know all those things, right? So why do I still do that? I like the music, you know, I do like the music from TikTok personally, I'd say. And I always use it as an excuse, like I love to go and like listen to those 15 seconds audios on my saved, you know. It's kind of stupid, you know. There's musical platforms and playlists for a reason. And even that, like the fact that people are, you know, trying to sell you 15 seconds of their song and all that instead of a full album like the older days and all that. Older days, 5 to 10 years ago. I don't know, I feel like it's so interesting how like everyone wants to be part of like this attention economy now. Everyone wants to be an influencer and a YouTuber and a TikToker and all those things, and honestly there's just so much more content and so much more influencers and YouTubers and everything than ever before, and it's just consistently increasing year by year. And honestly I feel like it has never been easier to make content before, you know, like apps like CapCut and CapCut specifically, like it edits for you, or like the auto captions on TikTok, like so everything has become so much easier. It's just become more and more accessible, you know. Even though, you know, you can find little CapCut now, it's expensive and it's not free like it used to be back in the day, unfortunately. But still, you know, and there's so many tutorials out there. It's like so many people. I would say it's obviously even oversaturated because everyone thinks like, what is there anything easier than, you know, becoming an influencer? Let me also post and you know. But you know, I feel like, because for me personally, I'm gonna speak from my personal experience. I don't know, this was silly because I'm like, you know, it's been such a long time that I wanted to do this, and I've always, like ever since I was little, you know, I can have videos of me being like 13 and trying to make videos, or 10 even. But I've always been so afraid of people judging me or finding out, or I just embarrassed and scared, and you know, and I always wanted to have someone beside me supporting me to do this with. But this is one of the only things that like I was afraid to do alone, and I just never really fully tried to do it alone. And I always felt like I wanted this, and I always felt like I getting messages from the universe kind of like, do this, and even my friends being like, do this, you know. And even when I think about like all the people who are like spreading all those negative messages regarding so many topics, you know, that are so problematic, and they're just brainwashing and indoctrinizing whole generations, you know, like those alpha man types, and you know, like, or even those like spring not to comment or on like other people's whole content existence, but like it was like problematic, like being a feminine era videos and Pian and you know, all those things like just get so pushed down your throat, you know. and I think there's a problematic, or like the left-wing and right-wing like whole content fiasco that's going on online as well. I don't know, I feel like I have something important to say and something important to share with the world, and this is gonna be one of my ways that I'm planning to do it. And I'm finally ready to be more honest and to tell you all of my story. And yeah, but hey, at the same time, I'm gonna cut myself some slack because my story and my existence isn't the easiest thing on earth. So, you know, it took time, but we got here. So I'm happy we did, and I'm happy that I even have some videos online anyways of my daily interests and my other thoughts. And honestly, even I enjoy them myself, going back to watching them and all that. And they're really helpful. And I love how, like, it's funny because you would think I'm filming, should be performing, but I've never, like, while I'm watching the videos and while I'm filming them, I feel like I've never been more honest and genuine, you know? Because it's just like, okay, we have time. I don't have to rush or limit myself or make myself smaller or only share parts of myself or, you know, get like surface level me. We have time. I can go in as much depth as I want to, and this is where I really am and what I truly believe. And it's on the table. Everything's on the page. Do whatever you want. Well, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video or learned something new. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Kisses the next time. Okay, before this video ends, actually, I really hate that, you know, I use auto caps on CapCut, you know, but they did not work well, and I didn't know how to add them individually, or actually I didn't want to add them individually myself. So that's why this video has some captions here and there and some captions not. So yeah, that's my explanation. Bye bye. Thank you.